afternoon on Tuesday, July 14th. Going to call the legislative session for the Board of County Commissioners to order. And we do have one public hearing is item number 3. So we have no other presentations. We do have a request from the airport with regard to an easement. We do have Mr. Crowder here to answer any questions and stuff. So Commissioner Kearns, Commissioner Cooney, do either one of you have any questions for Mr. Crowder? Okay, so then the chair is open to a motion on items 1, 2, I guess 4, 2, but no, I guess we'll just do 1 and 2. Mr. Kearns.
Okay. Mr. Chair, move to approve items number 1 and 2, including all sub-items on today's consent agenda.
I will second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to approve items 1 and 2 and all the sub-items appearing thereunder. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Let the record reflect that the ayes have it. Thank you very much. That gets us to item number 3, which is in the matter of modifying Spokane County Code Chapter 1.08 with regard to the appointment of an emergency management director. This is a reassignment of that position from the Board of County Commissioners to the sheriff. So this is yeah, I'm going to come back to that one. Yeah, I'm going to pick that up as a by leave. So unless there's any questions from my fellow commissioners, I'll go right into the hearing. This is a hearing item, and so is there anybody online or in the chambers that would like to provide any comment on hearing item number 3? Second call for anybody wanting to provide testimony on hearing item number 3. Third and final call. Seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to close the hearing and look to my fellow commissioners for direction on item number 3.
Mr. Chair, move to approve public hearing item number 3 on today's 2 p.m. agenda.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve hearing item number 3. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Let the record reflect the motion passes with a 3-0 vote. Then we do also have a by leave item. Commissioner Kearns.
I guess we're not having it.
Yep. Mr. Chair, move to approve by leave item number 4 in the matter of confirming the designation of a special deputy prosecuting attorney in conjunction with representation in certain cable franchise processes and authorizing the signing of a conflict waiver and engagement agreement.
I will second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to approve the by leave item as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 The record reflect the motion passes unanimously. Then, since we are operating predominantly by remote, we are just going to move into our miscellaneous matters. And so, Mr. Crowder and Mr. Worst, thank you very much for joining us. Your item's been approved and hope you have a great day.
Thank you, commissioners.
You bet. Then, all of a sudden, our agenda for this afternoon with regard to miscellaneous items grew since yesterday. So we've got a lot of specific items to take care of. One of which we received this morning petition for an advisory vote with regard to the Liberty State. And so I asked Mr. Amacio to do a little kind of summary for us on what the requirements are for the board when asked to deal with advisory votes and how it relates to this issue. So, Mr. Amacio, I'm going to turn it over to you.
board members, I emailed to each of you the analysis that Jim Coughlin and I put together this morning. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it to you until 12:38. So hopefully, Mary, you and Josh had an opportunity to look it over. The Attorney General in 1976 issued an HLO, a letter opinion. And in that letter opinion, he advised that it was his opinion that the Board of County Commissioners had the implied legal authority to place advisory ballot propositions before the electorate. He arrived at this conclusion by looking at the provisions of RCW 3632.120 sub 7, which is your ability to adopt ordinances. But I also believe you can look at 3632.120 parens 2, which is your ability to have the care of county property and the management of county funds and business. So that you have the authority at your discretion to place any item before the electorate is up to you. The Attorney General's opinion was also very clear that you have no duty to place an advisory ballot proposition in front of the electorate. It is simply up to the Board of County Commissioners in your discretion when you consider it. One of the factors that was noted in the AGLO board members was the potential cost of an advisory ballot position, and it suggested that that's something that you might want to think about. After I put that information in the form of an opinion, I also had the clerk of the board go into the Board of County Commissioners resolution site, because I had an independent recollection that there had been circumstances where there had been advisory ballot propositions placed before the electorate by the Board of County Commissioners. And I found at least two. One had to do with the mental health tax. As we all know, that's one of the few taxes that does not require a vote of the people. But I think it was in 2005, right after the legislature gave the authority to the county commissioners to levy that tax, the then Board of County Commissioners placed an advisory ballot proposition before the electorates to see if they wanted county commissioners to impose the 0.1% sales tax for mental health purposes. And the electorate advised the board yes, and of course then the board moved forward. The second one, which is also in the information I gave you, I escaped you for a minute, but let me say one other thing as we move forward. If you ever do an advisory ballot proposition, it's simply that. Regardless of what the voters say, you're not required to take any formal action based upon the advisory ballot proposition. So, bottom line is, yes, you can place advisory ballot propositions before the electorates. There's no requirement to do so, and you can't be forced to place them before the electorate. In the email that I sent the board with respect to the petition, I also indicated that, as I understand the petition, the new Liberty State would be created by 20 counties west of the Cascade Divide at the present time. And I also included a copy of the United States constitutional provision, which sets forth the procedure that must be followed to create a new state. And as the Board of County Commissioners are aware, it requires the approval of the Washington State Legislature and then the approval of Congress in order for that to take place. So unless the board has any concerns, Commissioner French, about my observations, I don't have any additional comments.
So I did have a conversation this morning with Vicki Dalton and asked her about the impact of an additional ballot measure from both the cost standpoint and from the standpoint of the impact on the ballot. She indicated that because of this being a presidential election year and they're already sending out ballots to everybody in the county, the cost would be de minimis. You're paying for basically the increased printing. But she did express concern that it's a full ballot and that additional items might push her to where she has to reconstruct it and instructions would have to be a separate um, document within the envelope to instruct people so that she's got enough room on the ballot for all of the candidates and other issues. So that was her concern. Could we do it? Yes. Does it create some challenges? Yes. Bring it forward for your consideration, because if in fact you decide that you want to do it, it has to be to her before August 4th to be able to get onto the November ballot. So there's what I've been able to get up so far. Any questions, any direction, desire, wish?
Josh, you want to go or you want me to go?
Do we have any idea if any of the other 20 counties have decided to put this on the ballot as an advisory vote?
Jim?
Commissioners, I had a conversation late this morning with the chief civil deputy in Yakima County. He said nothing's been done over there. In fact, at the time, he had heard in the distant past that the proposal also included parts of Idaho and Oregon. Well, I had heard the Idaho part, he had heard the Oregon part. So that was kind of what, Yakima hasn't heard anything, at least by way of the prosecutor's office over there yet. So thank you.
So no, we have not done a query of all the other counties in the state. Have no idea which ones would or would not. The issue though, based upon the work that Amacio has done, is that even if all 20 said yes, it takes the legislative bodies for the states impacted to take an action, and then the federal government has to take an action. So counties play no role in that decision-making process. So
Correct.
because we play no role in it, this is purely a political statement.
Yes, so I would say unless, it's one of those that this information should be going to the state legislators because they're the ones that play the role in it. I will just say concern that if we chose to put this on the ballot, that the timing of it with candidates, is that why they're wanting it on the ballot? To potentially help some candidates. I don't know, but I wouldn't be comfortable putting this to an advisory vote when there's so few people, because how many signatures do we have total?
2,000.
About 2,000 signatures. The other part of it that I'm a little concerned about is that we would be putting something on the ballot that really hasn't received a thorough vetting about what the cost of this would be, especially to the business community. I mean, think about it. Every single business in this county is going to have to change their address. That comes with a cost in terms of stationery, letterhead, everything like that. And there's no vetting on that in terms of what that impact is going to be, as well as, internet, everything else and stuff. So I'll weigh in here and just say I'm not in favor of putting it on the ballot. I just don't think it's right for the ballot. I think we've already got a challenging ballot for the electorate. To put one more issue on it, I don't think it's fully vetted. I don't think the electorate is educated about all the issues and impacts. I think it's premature. And on top of that, the county doesn't play a role in this process. I don't want to get dragged into a political agenda that the county has no role in. So we've been very diligent over the years of trying to stay out of these kind of political initiatives and stuff. So I see no reason to change that policy now. That's just me.
No, I agree. I mean, I just think it, again, this is information that should be going to the legislators, that they're the ones that play the role in it. Unless it's some kind of coordinated effort amongst the 20 counties that there's enough, enough people in counties want to put it on. Us just putting it on our county doesn't really do anything for the cause. So again, and for the reasons Al stated, Commissioner French stated, I I don't have any desire to put this on the ballot as an advisory vote.
Okay, Commissioner Kearns?
Yeah, no, I think you stated it well with the fact that this is, it could pass with 90% of the vote in Spokane County on an advisory vote. That doesn't mean anything as far as moving this forward in the state legislature. There's a process to create a new state, and it starts with the legislature, not with advisory votes with the counties. So.
Okay,
And I mean, if we're in a situation where 19 other counties have put it on and we're the holdout, then, if that happens before August 4th, maybe we come back and address this. But at this point, if we're the only one, I mean, again, it doesn't mean anything.
okay. So is it the desire of the board for me to communicate to the applicant that we are not going to put this on the ballot for this fall?
Yes.
Anybody object to me communicating that to them? Okay, all right. We will close that chapter then. Thank you, Jim, for all of your great work and advising the board. So then the other issue that came up on our conversations was where were we at on the VERP? And so I've got Margaret here to give us an update of where we are at with regard to moving forward on that. So Margaret, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. We put together the financial impact of doing a voluntary early retirement program. And similar to the one we did in 2009, we were looking at individuals that are 60 years of age or older with 5 years of service, but also including in there individuals that have 25 years of service regardless of age. And when we look at those qualifying individuals, excluding elected officials, since there's no savings in wages or longevity, there's 396 individuals that qualify for that countywide. And focusing on the general fund, since that's where we have the issue with the sales tax revenue, I took a conservative approach. In 2009, we had 13% of the people who qualified take advantage of the VERP. Looking at the 200 individuals in the general fund that are eligible, I'm assuming 15% might take advantage of this. And based on that number, there'd be savings of wages, longevity, and we're also proposing there's a 3-month delay in filling that position if somebody does VERP. So there's $800,000 roughly in wage and benefit savings. Then when you factor in the VIBA contribution, which would start out at a base of $10,000 for 5 years of service, but less than 10 years. And then $1,000 for each additional year, up to a maximum of $20,000. So factoring in the voluntary early or the employee benefits contribution to the VIBA, the net impact for 2020 would be about $270,000. But over 2 years, that grows to about $600,000.
Audio unsilenced.
And that's assuming just 15%. Whatever that's coming from. So we do have a draft policy put together that was reviewed by HR Budget and Chris Anderson of the prosecutor's office, all ready to go. And what we're proposing is that it would be in effect as soon as the board approves it, but the last date of retirement for the individual has to be by September 30th, which allows the department time to plan budget-wise and also the budget office to plan as to what additional payroll reductions or budget reductions might need to take place.
Okay. So Gary, have you had an opportunity to take a look at this opportunity?
I looked at the spreadsheet that Margaret prepared, and her analysis
was pretty conservative in estimating that. She went through a 15% estimated participation rate, increased it to a 40%, and then did 100%. Showed the analysis of the impact on the general funds along with all funds. And we talked again about it this morning. And it's kind of a sequential thing in that if we offer the group now, then we know what we're dealing with in terms of the pool of employees if you should decide to go with additional steps for furloughing or other steps that you want to take to try to mitigate the financial impacts of COVID for this year.
Okay. So you're comfortable with it for moving forward?
Yes.
Okay. So there's the background. Commissioners, do you have any questions or additional information that you would like to get?
So there's no impact to the general fund, correct? Just reiterating.
There's the net savings to the general fund. I've taken into account the 3-month delay in hiring the replacement worker. I assumed that the replacement worker would come in at mid-step, step 7, which I think is very, very conservative, given the fact that we also have the total compensation in place. So we bump up wages for new hires. I've taken into account the longevity, the funds that go into the employee's VIVA account. So in the first year, if 15 people participate, 15% participate, which equates to 30 in the general fund, it's a net savings of $271,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Josh? So what would be your pleasure? Anybody?
I'm happy to move forward with it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So,
Commissioner French, can I just add one thing? We did share this with HR, and Randy Withrow got back to Margaret and I. And HR's only input would, this is just a recommendation, the early retirement plan excludes directors. That's just HR's recommendation. And number 2, if it's implemented, there's no retroactive application. The effective date is when the plan begins. So if you were to pass this, if somebody retired a week ago, they couldn't be brought in. So
right.
That's just, commissioners, that's just HR's input to Margaret on this.
And as far as the department heads, I did look to see how many would be eligible out of the number I quoted, and it would be the 2 doctors at the medical examiner's office, Tim Hansen, Tom Krasinski, and Tori Peterson. Those are the 5 directors that are included in this analysis. So the question would be to John, do you want to exclude directors
Or not?
or not?
I'm happy to take that recommendation from HR.
Okay. Josh?
Sure.
Okay. So since this is a policy for the board to move forward with, then I believe we need a resolution to direct staff to move forward with implementing the VERP as proposed.
Do we need a motion, or is this something we're going to put on next week's consent agenda?
Whatever be
Which
the
is-
pleasure
which
of the
is
board.
easier.
We can either take it as a motion now, or we can bring it back next week and have it as part of the consent agenda for next week's action. Either way, whatever you'd like to do.
I'm good either way. Would you like me to make a motion now?
Just
Anybody,
saying, we deal with
anybody
it and get
opposed?
on.
Yeah, okay, if no one's opposed to that. Mr. Chair, move to approve the authorization and the engagement of the VERP as proposed by staff in preparing any documents and any type of procedures that need to be put in place to implement the VERP as discussed and presented by staff.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any additional conversation, discussion?
I think I just want to make sure that the recommendation from HR is in there.
Yes.
Yep, as discussed and as presented by staff. So, yep.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, let the record reflect the motion passes unanimously. Then, boy, we are popping right through these babies. Thank you, Margaret.
Commissioner French.
Yes, sir.
Chris Anderson mentioned something I'd like to draw to your attention. He was trying to call in for your public hearing on the amendment to the DEM ordinance. And for whatever reason, when he called in on the number that we've advertised, it was on mute. So because of that, Commissioner French, I think Chris and Jim and I are concerned that the items you took action on, the public could not hear some of them. So, we're recommending the following. Number one, the best thing to do would be to go over the agenda one time really quickly again. I would recommend that. The other option would be the clerk knows who was called in on that number. We'd have to call all those people and get them to waive their right. But in any event, the item for the DEM, we always were recommending you do that separately because that was a public hearing item and so critical. So two options. One, do them all over again. Two, clearly the DEM one, but then we'd have to call all the other people and have them waive their right to all the other four items.
The Burke was fine though, right, Jim?
Burke was fine.
So the other option we could do is we could go ahead and renotice it and reconsider it for next Tuesday, put it on Tuesday's agenda, take an action so that the public has an opportunity to call in and provide any comment on it.
Excuse me, but we also recorded it on Zoom. Isn't there a way to share it with anybody who wants it there? Sorry if I'm over speaking.
It's not a matter of sharing it. It's a matter that if anybody in the public wanted to provide testimony, they were excluded from doing the testimony. So technically, the hearing did not happen. Gina?
And then also on the notice for people that wanted to submit written testimony, it would have had to been received by last Friday.
Right. Josh?
Well, I was just going to say, Jim, did you mean to say that it was that we could not hear them, not that they couldn't hear us?
It was the latter. They could not hear Chris.
That's right. So commissioners, I was over in the S&T building and I had called in right at 2 p.m. and I could hear nothing. I could hear nothing. I had Jessica Pilgrim call in as well. I went over to her office to see if I was having technical difficulties. She called the number as well and could not hear anything. So for about 20 minutes, we couldn't hear anything, which is why I walked over to the office here to kind of find out what was going on.
So is there anybody on the phone right now that can hear us?
We have Heather Arnold and 4357951.
Okay.
And I did take pictures of the other when we were on the phone.
Yeah.
Commissioner French, the only question I would have about the one public hearing item, as I'm looking at Chris, is there some urgency why the sheriff would want to take action on that instead of continuing like Commissioner French had alluded to?
I have not. I had talked to the sheriff about this being done today. He's out of town currently. We have not talked about it being an urgent matter. So I don't have any information about him needing to be able to implement this immediately. But I have not spoken with him about that recently. The other issue is this is a 10-day notice. So we would have to put it out about 2 weeks.
So I have been on 2 other boards that we had technical difficulties with. And the bottom line was do it over and stuff. And so I'm going to default to safety and say, let's just, if I could have a motion to reconsider the action on the public hearing item for 2 weeks out, then that allows us to put it back on the agenda to reconsider. And then we can notice it and take an action in 2 weeks. That way we don't get ourselves sideways with the AG or anybody else, not knowing who's on the phone that might want to testify and was precluded from it.
And this is, Commissioner French, this is something that has to be 2 weeks, not 1 week?
Well, according to Chris Anderson, we have a 10-day notice period.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
10-day notice period will put us past Tuesday of next week.
Okay. Even since it was noticed 10 days prior to this, that doesn't That doesn't come into the equation, Chris?
That comes into the equation for the original, but
Yeah.
the only way we can reconsider, since we took a vote on it, is to renotice it, which puts
Okay.
us another 10 days out.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move to, I make a motion to reconsider public hearing item number 3 and to queue that up for another vote 2 weeks from today.
Are we in session then?
We're not.
Yeah, we're not in session then. I just pulling that up.
Or for the following week, so.
August 11th.
We're out for 2 weeks.
Oh.
What if we do a special meeting sometime next week?
But well, the only way you can do the special meeting is you got to be 10 days out from today, which
Yeah.
means Friday of next week, and I'll be out of town on that day, which doesn't mean anything. Mary and Josh could clearly do it if they wanted to.
You think we're gonna go to?
Don't you love technology? No.
It's great when it works.
Yeah.
August, I'm sorry, August.
August 11th.
So it'd kick it to August 11th,
It's August 11th.
right?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kicks it out a month.
Commissioner, Mr. Anderson and I are talking. We have some concerns that the sheriff who was gone today might be concerned about waiting that long. I'm thinking we could maybe set something before then with, like you said, with the other 2 commissioners if necessary, or.
They're all going
If
to.
you-
I'm sorry, I didn't hear this.
If you're gonna do it, the earliest you can do it to be 10 days out on your notice is the Friday of next week. And I'm gonna be traveling, so I won't be part of it. So, which doesn't mean anything. I mean, Mary and Josh can do it. That's no big deal. So, and maybe I'm depending upon what part of the day you do it in, I might be able to call in.
Right.
But otherwise, yeah, we can schedule it for Friday of next week if you like.
I'd be reluctant doing it before the 28th because of the paper, and that's.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to,
You're right.
so,
Publication.
yes.
Yes.
So Madam Clerk, if
we could do it.
if we published tomorrow or the next day, and we had 10 days, would that work, Commissioner French?
Doesn't give you 10 days.
No, we got to have 10 days notice from the date of the publication. You're correct.
And so the publication has to be today to make 10 days for Friday.
Well, if it were Thursday or Friday, right?
No,
It could be.
Friday of next week. To get to Friday of next week, you have to publish today.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's too late today to
But I
publish.
have to send it out today for them to publish it tomorrow.
So the
So
earliest
it'd
you
be
can.
Sunday, so the earliest you could do it is the 27th.
You're right, Mr. French.
So sometime that week might be something to look at.
So let me ask this of my fellow commissioners. If we were to have a very short, emphasis, capital letters, short, special meeting on the Monday of 27th of July, would you be available for a very short meeting on the morning of the 27th?
I would be, yes.
Just a second, let me.
Did I emphasize short?
Yeah.
And they can pick whatever.
I can after 9 o'clock.
So if we were to do it at 9:30, would that give you enough time, Mary?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. So Commissioner Kearns, in your motion to reconsider, would you
Yes.
establish the date for the reconsideration to be at a special meeting to be held on July 27th at 9:30?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move to reconsider public hearing item number 3 to be brought up for reconsideration on July 27th at 9:30 a.m.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Mr. Anderson, do you see all the trouble you create? No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Thanks. You would
No,
know.
I'm just kidding. No, thanks for the catch. Thanks for the catch.
Exactly.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I
Let the record reflect the motion passes unanimously. So we got time to publish and get it out, and then we will call for a special meeting. It'll all be done by Zoom, 5 minutes tops, and we'll be done.
Items 1 and
Perfect.
2 next week, like you were saying, Commissioner.
The other items, Commissioner French, Chairman French, likewise, we need to redo them next week because people, after you terminate the hearing, they may have gone offline. I don't know.
But it doesn't matter on the rest of the items.
Well, they still have the ability to listen in, Commissioner French, and we had at least 2
Well,
people
they couldn't even hear.
here.
Couldn't hear it.
No.
Couldn't hear
So,
anything.
so Commissioner French, all the items which we took action on when
Yeah.
that occurred, even the miscellaneous items.
Then reschedule all of them for another action.
But with respect to the Liberty matter, Commissioner French, I don't think we want to wait. I guess my question, we're still in miscellaneous. We can bring it back up now.
The action, so we didn't take a vote on that. I just got direction from the
Okay.
board. So there's no action on that. So that's fine.
Okay,
So I'm going to respond on that.
okay.
And so the verb, why don't you add to the agenda for next Tuesday on the consent agenda, a resolution on the verb to reflect what we told staff to do today. We can cover that. You can add the other items to the agenda. The one thing you will have to, well, it won't really matter, just as a courtesy, let Mr. Crowder know that we're going to have to reconsider the easement agreement for him next Tuesday, but that it'll be done so he can move forward. The city has deferred their action until next Monday anyway, so it doesn't hurt him in terms of timing. So that'll take care of that. So that should get us standing up straight again. Thank you. I'm just giving you a bad time.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else for the good of the cause? We were
Does
doing
Chris,
so
does Chris,
well.
does Chris have any more good news?
That's everything from me.
Good to see you, Chris.
I will see you all again in a little bit.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Thanks, Chris. All right. Well, geez, that was fun. Well, do we have enough courage to deal with the other items? You just want to call it quits for the day? So the next item then is, let's deal with, is Maggie. Maggie, you're on the line. Why don't we deal with yours next? And then we'll come back and have the CARES funding discussion, and then that'll wrap up the day for us. So Maggie, you're on.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here because, can everyone hear me? All right,
Yes.
I should check before. Wonderful. All right. So I'm here just to go through and get the guidance from the board in terms of some of the law and justice related requests that came through for the CARES Act funding. John Dixon, it looks like you're in the room.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Has the Excel document sort of made its way to the board, or do I need to circulate that electronically?
That's what we're going to be showing here.
Yes,
That's part of what we're showing today.
Okay, great. So do you want to take the lead and I can just offer additional information as needed?
Yeah.
Or Gary, I'm not sure if
We'll
you
let
want me to walk
Gary-
through this with
yeah.
Gary.
So Commissioner French, if it's okay, we'll just weave this into the other CARES Act discussion?
Yep.
Okay. So which one, Carrie and Gary, would you like to show first?
Why don't we start at the top with where we're at right now with CARES awards and what remaining balance we have.
So the summary overview of CARES Act funding expenditures. Okay?
Gina, it's the final document I just sent you.
Yeah. The one with Health District at the top.
Yep.
Do you have a copy of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a spreadsheet that Carrie put together for us to give us a quick look at where we're at.
We can't see it on our end. All we're seeing is your folder of documents.
Carrie, when did you send that out?
There it is. We can see it now. Thank you.
That's not the right one,
Not the
Jim.
right one.
That's the next one.
The one you had up is the
Yeah.
right one, Gina. It's not that one. Here,
There it is.
I got it.
that's it.
So Carrie, when did you send that out?
Pardon
I
me?
did send that out.
Okay.
Can you see it, Josh?
Yes, it's here.
Okay.
So this was updated as of yesterday's information from what was approved yesterday on the 13th. That included the temporary IT business analyst for 89,000, and then the temporary district court commissioner for 126. So far, there's been 25,190,000 amount that was allocated, and our total CARES funding was 91 million. Remaining unallocated right now stands at 66 million. Then we took a look at her requested yesterday at what the Maggie had submitted in her package and broke it out into a couple of different reports. The first thing was the tab VOCC consideration. This involved the large requests and anything involving personnel. That total request, as you'll see in the document, Jeannie will bring it up on the screen, amounted to $7,332,000.
It's like the email I sent you before. Copy of the CARES request. No, it's the other.
The Excel spreadsheet.
It's right there. No, down. There we go. No. There we go. So BOCC consideration is the middle middle tab there. There we go.
Thank you.
Josh and Mary, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
Superior Court Clerk is the first one on there.
Yes.
Yep.
And
That's a document we can see.
Okay.
And we were asked to provide feedback to the board on whether or not any of these amounts had already been budgeted in the current 2020 budget, which would preclude us from consideration of CARES requests. And the only one that seemed to be already budgeted was lower down on the 2/3 down on the page. You'll see the Sheriff's Office request for respirators in the amount of $100,000.
Okay, so then we would eliminate that from CARES dollars?
Correct. So this is just a tabulation so that you'll know where you're at. We'll keep it ongoing before the board, so you'll be kept up to date on the status of any of these requests. And moving forward, the next tab, I'll have to wait till Jeannie gets back, is the what was being requested specifically by the city of Spokane.
It's a small one. There we go, the last tab there.
Thanks.
I think you've got the judges and teams on twice.
Here's the packet.
Go. I had that. I think you've got judges on both.
Like, I guess this was brought to us as part of the whole criminal justice system, but, this is City of Spokane departments. And so I have a hard time, I don't want to get into play on the departments with the City of Spokane because that's part of their essential services that their CARES dollars would be for.
That's why we broke it out just for separate consideration so that you see them grouped together.
Okay.
And then there's a third tab there that just deals with the requests that are $50,000 and less that could be approved by Jerry. And these are non-personnel related requests. And you can see there's quite a few of them already queued up. In total, the sum is $338,000.
And you guys have vetted all of those requests and
No, we just
Not yet.
tabulated them. We haven't had a chance
Okay.
to go through
All
and
right.
dissect them at this point.
got it, okay.
Commissioner, a lot of them, as I indicated yesterday, this is the entire list that was on Maggie's sheet. A lot of those are including laptops that would be included in the previously agreed upon 725,000.
So there was a lot
There
of
could be some
overlap.
duplication between
Some
here,
to
so,
avoid.
so
I would
it's
say,
probably
yeah.
premature to take any action on those till we give you guys a chance to go through and vet that.
Correct.
Got it, okay.
And then the last
It's a Word
slide up
document.
there is a form that Carrie developed to funnel all CARES requests into a standardized form so that we have the correct information to assess each of those requests as they come in.
Okay.
It's the Word document, Gina, that I sent.
So,
That's it, Commissioner, that you had in your hand right there. That
it's
one.
here,
Uh-huh, yes. Yes, yes.
okay. So,
There we go.
And the most important part there might be that second to last descriptor box, which states how is this request for which the department is seeking funding related to the COVID pandemic.
These represent the questions that we have to ask, and we're just assuring for future accountability, when we get audited, that we have this amount of traceability for each request.
so the 7,332,000 includes the two items we approved yesterday
Yes.
and stuff. So if we're gonna take an action today, we need to exclude those two items out of this.
Correct.
Okay,
So one of the things, I was on the call today at noon with the WASAC with Department of Commerce, and they have, Carrie, just for this purpose, I mean, I think it'd be good to put down, they've got their 5 kind of question criteria. You know, that one is the expense is connected to the COVID-19 emergency, you know, true or false. 2 is expense necessary. 3 is expense not filling a shortfall in the government revenues. 4, the expense is not funded through another budget line item allocated, you know, allotment or any of that. And the expense wouldn't exist without COVID-19 or would be for a substantially different purpose. So I don't know if we want to add those to that, because I think that's if that's what the state's going to be looking at on all their forms for the audit purposes, I think it'd be, you know, that might be better for us to have it on ours. And I saw this at noon today.
Josh, you were gonna say something?
No.
Okay.
Commissioner, I couldn't hear you, because I'm deaf and I can't hear anything. So on that section, you're talking about the 4th box, you want additional language put in there about, is it all of the section on that's currently been put out by the Department of Treasury? I didn't quite hear what you were.
This is for the Department of Commerce. As the different counties and cities have to go through their procedures, which again is kind of what our state auditors are going to be auditing and looking at. That I just thought having those same 5 questions on our form would be a good way to show that yes, we've thought through, you know, that the purpose of it, it meets the 5 test criteria. So I can show that to you later.
Okay, that would be really good.
Because I just think it'd make it easier, it'd just provide consistency for us, I think, for the auditors.
Great idea.
Okay. So, as I've listened to all of the conversations and stuff, if you go to the one sheet that has the summary of 7,332,695, if we make the following adjustments to that balance to reflect things that are currently on the table that I think we probably could move forward with. Take the first two items, the 89,000, the 126, that comes to 215. We already approved that yesterday, so that can come out of the 732. We've not made a decision on the sprung at the 4,275,000. You could take that out. You could take the respirators out for 100,000, and you could take the thermal imaging for the helicopter out at 300,000, and with the balance at that point for all of the other remaining items would be 2,442,695. And so if you're comfortable with the other items so that they can move forward with those, then that would be the balance remaining to cover everything other than the items I pulled out.
So, and I guess, Carrie, have we vetted, because I know we didn't vet the other ones yet, have these been vetted, like, you know, so like for juvenile court, we've got the booking remodel. Can we do remodels like that? And was some of that budgeted or not?
You can if you're trying to get social distancing.
Right.
And that's the justification for it, which in this case it is.
Okay, and the hazard pay, did we take that out? Because we didn't do hazard pay for anybody else.
The hazard pay? Yeah, no, that's a decision for the commissioners.
So
yeah, I would
so we can take that out too then?
Approving that.
Okay.
The other is that this document also includes Maggie's request, is it not? Maggie, I think the supervised release and the court appearance, the 400,000 and the 200,000, those were part of what you charged Gary yesterday with coming up with some information on whether or not those amounts were in the budget for next year. Is that correct?
Yes, and we did not identify a funding stream for 2021 where they would be paid for out of the general fund at this time.
Yeah, so I think seeing those two, that's another concern I have, is that what is that, you know, putting that in temporarily, are we really going to get people that would do that? Because we're only talking about 5 months at this point. So I don't know that until we can find a funding stream or know how we can fund that in the future, I'm not interested in looking at that at this point in time. I'd love to have it, and I'm sad that the grant didn't come through on it. But my concern is that, again, using, you know, how can we really use CARES dollars for it when it's really an ongoing program?
Okay.
Maggie, any comments?
I want to clarify that there's two separate requests. So there's the supported release request for 400,000, and then there's a second request for some court date appearance support. And part of what that would include is to build out remote court booths in community-based locations. I just had a call earlier today with the House of Charity, for instance, to explore building out a booth where residents can appear for court remotely. This is something that the courts are using when possible and when appropriate, but many individuals struggle to access that sort of technology. And so that would, just based on the rough budget figures that we were discussing today, be around $25,000 to build that out at the House of Charity. That number may come down depending on our continued refinement of the proposal, but we'd also want to look at a couple of other shelters to build that out as well. And so that's part of what's included in that secondary court support request in addition to the supported release. You are correct that the supported release would, we'd need to figure out whether and how to continue funding it beyond December of 2020. And I do think that we could get it up and running for a short time before that. I'm not certain how long and sort of what the impact would be on our jail population short term.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think it's a great idea, and I really want to try to figure it out, but I just hate to, I don't want to commit ourselves to something that we, you know, with the revenue shortfalls that we're going to have in the future. I just hate to commit ourselves at this point in time. with CARES dollars. Now, on the other, I mean, I guess my request would be to have you come back with what that true proposal would be for those, the remote courts, because I think that's, that definitely is a COVID-related, expense to try to keep them out of getting into our, courthouse and all of that. So, I mean, I definitely see that as a something we need to address, but I'd like to, have a real proposal for it. Does that make sense?
Jim?
Thank you, Commissioner.
And John?
With regard to the $200,000 request that Maggie makes, that's news to me. I have no comment on. But with regard to the supervised release, first thought I had was what Commissioner Cooney said. The second thought was that it's a program from New York, which is a no-bail state, and our office really doesn't feel, from what we know to date, that really advances public safety. And WASPIC didn't seem to find such. So we have great concerns about the supervised release one, at least as it's presented now, both financially and whether its efficacy really works. The other one, I make no comments on.
Okay. So then,
Commissioner French?
yes, John.
And
Sorry.
Maggie, with the ITAs is there funding in here? This is where we have the roving court that takes is part of the law and justice team's request, I forget, I'm sorry, to somehow do that all via Zoom or virtual in the future, this year and in the future?
That's not included in this request. We've had some very preliminary conversations with only some stakeholders. It hasn't been sort of a deliberate development process at this point to further that.
I just see that as a future improvement that would drastically enhance our capacity if we can legally do those court appearances via Zoom. That's an if, I don't know.
Okay. Anything else?
Commissioner French, the
Yes.
retabulation of the dollar amount, excluding, again, the hazard pay at $75,000, excluding the $400,000 for supervised release, and then excluding the court appearance support at $200,000, gives us a total of $1,767,695.
That's exactly what I got.
Wow.
Holy cow. That must be right.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. So we're looking at the booking remodel for juvenile court, intake and release for detention services, and I don't know. So detention services Geiger at $67,000. What is that for?
I believe that request is for a classroom, a portable classroom that Geiger was requesting in order to continue programming with social distancing.
Okay. So that's, in my mind, those are the three items that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so you got the three items, 100,000, 1.6 million, and 67,695.
Okay.
And get, okay, yep.
So, if you two feel comfortable, we can take a motion on those three items and approve them so we can move forward with that. Or not.
I am just making sure here, 1 second. Okay. All right, Mr. Chair, move to approve and authorize the expenditure of CARES dollars and allocate an allocation in the amount of $1,767,695. That is an up to $1.767695 for the purpose of a booking remodel for juvenile court, a intake and release for detention services, as well as a portable classroom at Geiger for detention services, as presented by staff.
Okay,
I will second that.
got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Aye, sorry.
All right, we got 3 ayes, or 2 and a delayed aye. All right, motion passed unanimously. Great, progress, thank you. Anything else for the good of the cause? Maggie?
That was all I had, Commissioners. Thank you.
Okay,
I'd say, Maggie, please make sure you come back to us with that proposal, because I think that's going to be really important.
Absolutely. I should be able to have something drafted within a week or so.
Okay.
terrific.
Commissioners, can I have 5 seconds?
Yes.
I promise to talk really fast.
Mr. French will hold you to it, I guarantee it.
Okay.
Time's up.
Don't make me sit closer.
Remember, she's another boy.
Look at him run. So I know you guys are gone until the 11th, and I'm working diligently with the GSI contract and the Visit Spokane contract, and then the Inlander we're in a contract too for that. So we kind of want to get those contracts done. So I'm wondering if I should just bring the resolutions next Tuesday, put them on the agenda, and then if we can somehow in those give Jerry the authority to sign those, because we want to move forward rather quickly with all of those. I don't know what your thoughts would be on that.
Yeah, so go ahead. I'm sorry, Mary.
I'd be good with that since we've already approved it, which is really, the main thing. And then, so as long as you're getting the contract put together, having Jerry sign it, I'm completely comfortable with that.
Yeah. And the alternative, I'm going to be around. I'm not traveling that 2-week period. So if need be, I can come in if it need be. So, but Jerry's fine. Okay.
Okay.
All right. We don't
Thank you,
want to slow up
Commissioners.
progress.
No, and I'll get the resolutions before you guys next week.
Okay.
Thank you. See, it was fast.
Thank you.
One quick item.
I got another item we still got to deal with yet.
Oh, miscellaneous. Just some of you might have seen, but Tanya Stern, who's our assistant director, just announced she's leaving the county on October 9th. So she's going to Frontier Behavioral Health. So we're going to start the recruitment for the assistant director at Community Services immediately. That's it.
Okay.
It's very sad to see that today. So, but
yeah,
I'm sure it's a good move for her.
Yeah.
So yesterday we talked about having a conversation today, and it was timely because I had a conversation with the mayor this morning, basically discussing the proposal. And I believe that all 3 of us received in our emails a letter from the mayor describing the nature of their proposal for the CARES funding. And my conversation with the mayor indicated that she did have a conversation with you, Commissioner Kearns.
No, I got a text message, and we've been texting back and forth to try to find a time to speak. I have not spoken with the mayor yet.
Okay, and then we did receive this today, and I asked Gina to forward this to you as well. And this is the actual request for the CARES funds. So look for this in your mailbox, and that'll give you and they're titling it Regional Bridge Housing Center, but this is basically the project up on Mission and Division Street and stuff. So I told the mayor that we're going to have a conversation today about philosophically where is it that we as a board want to be with regard to the initiative for.
I think we've lost you, Al.
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
I can't either.
Wow.
Wow, what a blessing.
Are you there? No.
Now I know you
You're
can hear
back.
me because you're laughing.
Well, you're back
we
now.
can.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding. So the conversation is about what level of involvement we want to take and what's the nature of the involvement we want to take with regard to the COVID homeless housing initiative, and then the regional homeless housing initiative after we get through COVID. And so in the past, our position at the county has been in support of the city and its efforts to address homelessness. And so we provided funding and some staff support and things like that, but it's really in support of what the city's initiatives have been. And the reason for that is that the majority of the services that the homeless rely on are inside the city, and all the facilities are inside the city. So it seemed to be logical to support their efforts to accommodate that population inside the city. Now that they want to take the conversation to a regional conversation, well, so how does that influence what we want to do at the county? Do we want to continue to be a support for the city's initiatives, or do we want to be a
You're
partner?
frozen again on mine.
I'm not doing anything different.
It's internet connection.
What is it? Is it the internet?
Hello?
Yeah, so Mary,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Did he freeze on your end too, Mary?
No, I heard him the whole time.
Okay.
so it's just you, Josh.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right. Keep going.
yeah, pay the bill. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. So do we want to be support? Do we want to be a partner? Or do we want to lead? You know, if it's a regional effort, there is an argument to be made that we want to lead that effort because we're the regional government. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to. We can be a partner with the cities and say between the three of us, the three major jurisdictions, we will be a partner with you in addressing the regional issues. The challenge that we have is that our jurisdiction is the unincorporated area, and we don't have any services in the unincorporated area that the homeless rely on. So what is it that we provide other than vacant land? And there really isn't anything other than money, and we can get money to support projects inside the jurisdictions where the services are. And so we've not had this deliberative conversation to help shape what role we want to play in these investments with regard to COVID and regional homelessness. And so I thought before we get to have this, horse get too far out of the barn on us, we should have a conversation and make sure that the three of us either understand and agree on what we're doing, or at least understand and agree what the majority are doing, so that we can participate in those conversations in whatever way we want to. So I don't have any particular agenda here. It's more just about what do we as a board want to do. And so I'm totally open to whatever the desire of the board is, but just thought we ought to talk about it, because this one project with regard to the housing issue is probably going to be the first of many that are going to come our way. So how do we want to position ourselves in those conversations? So I just throw it up for conversation. There's no agenda with regard to the ask for the city. We can talk about that on Monday when the group comes and makes their formal presentation, but I just didn't want them to hit us cold without having the conversation. So that's the background for the conversation. That's it. Mary?
I think, it hasn't been a regional discussion. To me, it hasn't been a regional discussion. The city has been the one leading it, doing it, managing it. We've just contributed the funds to it. So, when we start to now say that we want it to be a regional discussion and decision, the city's making different policy decisions within their city boundaries that guide a lot of that, and we don't have any say over that. So, and I mean, we've seen in our response, with COVID, it's a regional issue, but yet different, people are wanting to take the lead and wanting to talk about it, and it's not as regional as I think it could be. So those are just some of my overall thoughts. I know this is very much wanting to participate in the homeless. That was part of what they really want to be doing, is to help guide that. They don't want anyone dying on our streets, and neither do we. So they're looking at partnering in some way, with this bridge housing project. So it truly is a community regional discussion. I think when you start to get the business, environment into it, the Valley is definitely wanting to play more of a role, because they're seeing their citizens. And I think that was the tough thing when, last year, and this is before the mayor came in, that, as I think I said before, Cannon Street was said to be that was the city shelter and it wasn't anybody else's shelter. And so I've been trying to get a handle on what are all the beds out there? What are all the different shelters, that are out there? And I think we need to, I know the continuum of care is there, and they're trying to help, but I don't know that we really had, that I feel that we're as strategic. I think right now we've just been grappling with this, fact that we had COVID, we had to separate people, but yet Cannon Street was going to close anyway. So, so I just feel like we're not really thinking long-term. At least I'm not aware, I'm sure the city has their, they are, but I'm just not seeing, as much of that as I guess I would like to strategically know where we're really headed. And again, I looked at the 5-year plan here recently and understand it. And that's why I think having the youth housing, is going to be, or the, young adult housing shelter as a separate item, which now we've got the separate funding source for, is the perfect way to put that up and together as part of that community, regional. And I think, the Valley is certainly, wanting to have it out with them, because I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want to come down to Spokane, to the shelters in Spokane. So, I don't know. I think there's, I think we're being not as strategic and long-term thinking right now, just because of the immediate need.
Okay, Josh?
Yeah, no, I'm going to echo what Commissioner CUNY said. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and I think a lot of them go back to what Commissioner CUNY was saying was, we talk about regional, we talk about working together there, but I can't count the number of times where we've asked questions about, well, what's going on, over here? What is this municipality doing? But we're supposed to have that regional approach. We're supposed to be working together, but we still have a lot of question marks. The number of times that, just I'll use for an example of homeless dollars, the $1.4 million. How many, that from Department of Commerce that we let the city take the lead on. Commissioner CUNY remembered that came with a caveat that, we were supposed to be kept in the loop on how those dollars were spent. And I still have a lot of confusion on how those have been spent. I mean, I don't know if either of you have gotten a rundown, on how those dollars have been spent, but I couldn't tell you how they've been spent or if they've been spent. I mean, we thought they had been, then we were told they hadn't, and then we'd heard that it had been used on something else. But so, it's, I think Commissioner CUNY hit it on the head, as far as the, if we are going to look at a regional approach, there needs to be, we need to actually live up to that regional approach and be actually kept in the loop on some of these conversations a little more than we have been.
So part of the dynamic that has changed over the years that I've been here is that the county's traditional role has been, we're here to provide staff and financial support, but city, go forth and take care of it. And so we deliberately have stepped back, if you will, and let the city take the lead. And so they've been making the decisions and structuring that program. I think, quite frankly, one of the reasons why the nature of the conversation is changing is because I think the city is getting overwhelmed with that responsibility. And they don't have either the resources or the opportunities to deal with it at the level that they want to deal with it. And so that's one of the reasons why they're looking to change the relationship from them taking the lead to maybe making it a regional agenda and having more partners at the table. Now, the idea that we were going to bring more resources to the table, I think, comes with the expectation that we're going to have a greater involvement in that decision making than has traditionally been our practice. And so this is great conversation, because I think this is exactly where we need to be a legitimate partner in the conversation. The challenge with being a partner is that philosophically, the council has one set of criteria and an approach that the mayor is trying to adjust to, but I think that approach is also very different than what our approach would be. And so I think it does call for a very sincere conversation about the differences and a negotiation to come to some kind of mutual understanding about, if you want us to be a partner with you, then a partner means that you're going to have to compromise some of your expectations in exchange for the resources that we will bring to the table. I think Mary said it very well, that their criteria and their agenda as far as how they want to operate the homeless shelters and what the criteria is, what the accountability expectation is and stuff, is very different than I think what we would want to see as a group. And so certainly can orchestrate to have those conversations legislative body to legislative body, because it's the council that's making those policy decisions, not the mayor. And so this conversation probably is more appropriate to gravitate to us meeting with the city council around how we're going to regionally approach as partners the issue of homelessness and the shelters. I get confused with all of the different names that are applied to different types of shelters that are being provided inside the city, and the nature of the contracts they have with each one of the different providers. And it seems like from the time that I was with the city to where we are now, things have gotten dramatically more complicated. Maybe that's because of the nature of the money they're using. Maybe it's because of political influence. I don't know, but I know that things have changed dramatically over the last 10 years. So, so what I'm hearing is that we want to be a partner. We want to have a greater involvement in what that decision-making is, so that we have a mutual understanding about the goals and the expectations, and when we can define when we've achieved success. Is that a fair summary, or what did I miss? What I want to do is I want to try to lay the foundation to go back to the mayor and Brian and say, if you want us as partners, here's our expectation. And so I'm looking for you to help define, and we don't have to do it today, but at least have the conversation. Think about, we can do it Monday. What are the expectations that we want to have? What are the things that we want to see happen as a partner in addressing the homelessness issue? So,
So yeah, I mean, I think, am I 100% sure I want to be a partner yet? I don't know. I mean, versus just providing the funding. I mean, I think I do, but it's, it's because it is regional. I mean, we have, how long have we been giving them the dollars from Spokane County?
for as long as I can remember.
Okay.
For as long as I can remember. I mean, the city, the community development department for the city of Spokane and Spokane County have been working as partners since I was with the city. So to try and address homelessness. But quite frankly, even when I was with the city, it was a city-driven initiative, and the county was just there with dollars. That's all they were.
And I think that's for me trying to, say, yes, I would like to continue that partnership because it doesn't make sense to do our own thing versus them do their own thing and all of that. So I mean, that completely makes sense. But it's like, I'm still struggling, and I've been listening to a lot of conversations as to like the continuum of care, what that's really, how that's really, I know that's trying to be that strategic piece, but how is, since they just got their 5-year plan, I think November we adopted it, how is that really helping drive what we're trying to do? And I think the theory is there. Again, I just had some frustration in the fact that, I just took over that one committee from you and 3 weeks ago, and so much has changed in 3 weeks. Every week it's something different and changing and all of that. And so that's been a frustration of mine, because I feel like I don't know what we're trying to attain. And even, and I know Paul's on the line and Arian probably, as we look at even the shelter space up at Mission, if that's going to be this, bridge housing, the project that we talked about, that we did the charter for, but yet now it's going to be temporary house, temporary to get people out of the arena. What is the real plan there? What's the long, I know the long term is to get it to this bridge housing, but what's, I would want to know what's our time frame to do that, and really have it all laid out. I'm concerned, and I'm going to say that with getting the letter from Tanya, email from Tanya that Jerry sent to us last week, that said the ask was for $1.3 million to purchase the Mission Street property and $150,000 in renovations for Cannon Street. But what we got from the mayor yesterday was, or today, I can't remember which day, was for $2 million. So again, that's just going from July 9th to today. And that's my concern is we have to be really thinking through what we're doing and what we're asking for and what they're asking for. Would I be probably okay doing the 1.3 and the 150? Probably, because it is a regional issue that we got more funding, and it's a one-time funding that we could then put to, if we can use it for capital, which I need to make sure we could, would benefit our community for the future, and not having to spend additional dollars on leasing or those kinds of things. But those are discussions we need to be having as to why and what and all of that, and how it's really strategically thinking about it and being regional about it, and knowing that, again, what's the purpose? If it's truly for what I've known, it's supposed to be this bridge housing that we couldn't get in the valley, but now it's going to become this temporary. Again, what is that? Because I apologize, I don't keep finishing my thoughts. A time frame for what that temporary nature is. And then the bridge housing, the philosophy of the bridge housing, I think is what helps get people out of homelessness long term. So I really think that that's, from the conversations I've had, that's going to be a path out of it. But that's 60 people eventually is what we were talking about for that, versus I still need to see what's really happening in the community, with these other areas. I mean, we've got, House of Charity, we've got Catholic Charities doing all these different things. It's like, how are we looking at it collectively as a whole? And that's one of the pieces I haven't seen to know, again, what strategically long-term, so I don't know if you have, Al.
So in my conversation today with the mayor this morning, she indicated that the property up on Mission and Division, which I believe is owned by Spokane Housing Authority, and they are motivated to lease and or sell that building, and that the city's, the mayor's idea is to use CARES funding to buy that facility, to provide the isolation necessary to move everybody out of the arena into that facility, probably as long as maybe April to June of next year. And then once we're through the COVID experience, then transition that facility into the bridge housing that we would then own, and could then have that as an asset to the system. So then the question becomes, if we are going to own it, who is we? Does that mean the city's going to own it? So we're going to provide all the funding to buy a building the city's going to own? So that's a question. The other thing that she suggested was maybe the two of us as partners contribute our proportionate share of our CARES funding into the ownership of the building. So if you take $6 million and 91 million, what's the proportionate share of that? Share the cost of the 2 million. Maybe that's a way to where we can use CARES funding so that we're not taking money out of our general fund and contributing it to a partnership to acquire the building. That's one strategy. But I think to answer your basic question as to what are we going to do, that is her explanation of her idea about how we're going to solve the immediate problem of moving people out of the arena, and then solve the long-term problem of what do we do for transitional housing. So it's really both. As far as engagement with Catholic Charities, my experience has been Catholic Charities is going to do whatever the heck Catholic Charities wants to do. And working with them as partners can be challenging. And that's, God bless the city, go for it. The county has not traditionally had the best of luck in that arena. We've got a different kind of relationship, but it doesn't mean that it can't mature into a better relationship. But really the relationship is more between Catholic Charities and the city. And of course, Jonathan Mallahan started at the city and now is in charge of housing with Catholic Charities. So he has that connection. Mary?
Part of it is though, we're providing our funds to the city that then are, even though they're contracting with the city, it's still partly our dollars that are going into all those different contracts. And the city definitely gets the majority of those funds. I mean, we saw that with the CDBG grants and all of that. And what I don't want to do is have us all feeling like, well, we just need to go do our own thing and not be working together. But I think we need to be working together, so we're collectively feeling comfortable and understanding, and that it's not just at a staff level.
Well, and part of the challenge for the board has been, if we actively engage in trying to address homelessness, our jurisdiction is unincorporated area, and yeah, we might have land, but we're now locating people that are challenged with homelessness far away from the services they rely on. And so that just philosophically is not the right thing to do. It might be cheap, but it's cheap for us. It's not necessarily cheap for the people we're trying to serve, who now have transportation issues and a whole lot of other access issues to medical care and everything else. So that's one of the reasons why we've said, this really is an urban issue. let the urban jurisdictions take care of it, and we'll support them.
When I think, I mean, what I'm hearing today too is, I mean, we're all discussing what we think it means as far as supporting, what it means to have a partnership, what it means to have that regional approach. I mean, Mary, you've attended more of the homeless meetings than I think Al and I have, you know, but they've been about a different facility. So I mean, I think part of it is we need to talk to those regional partners and make sure what we envision as partnership, supporting, regional approach, that our definition of those are the same as their definition. I mean, we could get together and we both think, well, yeah, a regional approach, a partnership, you know, to some extent where the county plays a supporting role, but that could mean something different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction on what they think that all means. So, I mean, I think that's another question that we're going to have to ask next week to the city is, you know, this is what we think you mean, or this is what we would like to play. Does that line up with what you envisioned? So, I mean, I'd hate for us to lay out a plan that says we're going to support by doing X, Y, Z, and they say, oh, well, we're hoping you'd support by doing A, B, C. So, you know, it's difficult. But I mean, it's a great conversation we're having, but these are, you know, to really bring it home, we're going to have a conversation, just make sure that we are still on the same page with our regional partners.
Well, and that's why I wanted to have the conversation before Monday, so that at least we could have some kind of an idea amongst the three of us about what our expectations are, as opposed to getting into a meeting on Monday and then trying to have to navigate through two other jurisdictions that are going to have a request. Yeah, Mary, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, and I was just going to say, you know, in some ways, Josh, you've had more conversations because I had to recuse myself last year when you guys were having a lot of the homeless discussions on the grocery outlet property.
That's right. That's right. There was the grocery outlet facility as well. Yeah.
So I mean, you guys were having those conversations, and I wasn't, you know, in those.
Yeah, and I mean that goes back a year. So, yeah.
So, and I think that shows that there is this need, and they've been searching since then. You know, there is a need for this. I mean, so I don't want to placate that there's not a need, and that's where I think the bridge housing, you know, concept is the concept that does help get these people out of homelessness, you know, and into, you know, which was part of their theory, you know, with the grocery outlet. It was a different, you know, situation, but I think that's, you know, different to me talking to some of the other nonprofits like Family Promise, you know, that's how you get people out of it instead of, you know, them staying in it. You know, you can't just put them in an apartment and expect them to be okay. It's, you know, the bridge housing is trying to provide that, you know, wraparound services then to help them get them out, which we see, you know, like Salvation Army does that with some of their other properties. But that's where I was trying to look at the 5-year plan and kind of see what the inventory is, and, you know, for things that are out there. So I don't know, there's just a lot that, you know, to me, we still need to be strategically thinking and looking at and knowledgeable about, that I don't feel I'm knowledgeable about yet.
Well, and the other thing too is that the city of the Valley, my interpretation based upon conversations I've had with folks out there is, yes, we want to be partners to make sure that they don't end up in our community. And that might be a harsh way of saying it, but when I was having the conversations with Ben and Nadine, the idea of having a homeless shelter in the Valley got everybody's hair up on end. And then as we started talking about a transition facility, then the hair started to lay down. And so that tells me that, yes, we want to be partners on this level. We don't want the full meal deal, but we'll help you out here. And back to what Josh was saying about having an understanding about what role everybody wants to play and what level of burden you want to Carrie, I think it's going to be critical if we're going to be able to say, yes, I will do this, whatever this is. Mary?
And partly, I think, it's because that overnight stay shelters, the emergency shelters, all the services are downtown. So, I mean, that's why it does make sense to have this close to those services. And I think partly why the Valley was more comfortable with a transitional facility, because otherwise then you're having those people go quite a long way, from the Valley to downtown to get those services. Are they going to or not? And really to get them out of homelessness is we need to be getting them the services. So, and I think that's why the Valley's, thinking on the young adult side, it keeps them away from that, emergency overnight shelters that, because coming from Hutton, I mean, settlement side, it's like, yeah, those kids aren't ready to go into, coming out of foster care or any of that. If they don't have a place to go, going to an adult facility where there's, it's not a good situation for them. So, so I mean, it's definitely worth having it be a separate facility.
So you have the email from the mayor and you have the presentation white paper, if you will, describing the nature of the project that we're going to be talking about on Monday. So between now and then, if you have a chance to read that and get a comfort level with what the nature of the ask is, then Monday maybe we can have a more in-depth conversation about what the expectation is and what does the relationship look like as we move forward. I'm not campaigning for any kind of outcome. I just want to know what the board wants to do so I can accurately reflect that. So.
Well, and they are going to be on a tight time frame. So I mean, it's one of those that you got to get out of the arena August 15th.
Yeah, August 15th is when they have to be out. And then just to circle back on that, John, you were going to reach out to Kathleen Torella and find out if they could continue to use 8th Street for the women's transition facility. If you had a chance to do that, and what did you find out?
Well, there's concerns, with Kathleen. It can be done. It can be done to utilize that facility. We just don't know how soon we're going to be bringing back. We don't know when phase 3 is going to occur. That's the time when Kathleen will be bringing back her staff. But no, it can still be done.
And I do have Kathleen calling in, being part of the meeting tomorrow with Fenwick and I. So since Jerry's not there, I'm going to have Kathleen attend.
Okay. So again, in my conversation with Nadine this morning, she was talking about having to use the facility until probably at least April of next year. So, and she said, if we have to pay rent, or if you guys want to use your CARES dollars and pay yourself rent on it or whatever, but that's the expectation, is we're probably looking at something that's at least another 9 or 10 months out. And can we accommodate that from a staffing personnel standpoint and not impact the rest of our staff that's inside that building still? So, but that'll be part of the conversation too. And we've indicated that we would be we've indicated that we'd be willing to extend the lease. We've not said for how long and stuff. So that's still a question that we have to ask and answer ourselves as to how long we'll be comfortable with them being in there. But yeah, they got a month left to get out of the arena. And at this point, they don't have anywhere to go yet.
Right. Well, that's where, the housing authority building is where they would like to go. And it makes sense, I think. But it's, yeah.
Okay.
How many?
Anything else you want to throw into the mix on this one? We beat it up enough? All right. That then I think, finishes everything I had on my list for miscellaneous items. Anything else come up for either one of the two of you that you want to bring up?
Well, I think, let's put it for next week to make sure that we kind of really talk about kind of where we want to have our buckets. And I think it's going to be important to wait till after Amelia talks to us because I think we're going to be spending a lot more in public health than we anticipated when we first kind of thought through it. And then I think having that discussion on nonprofits, if we're just going to let them go through the other process. I was on this call I was on at noon today. Commerce is going to do some additional grants for small businesses and nonprofits, but they're, it's like 20 million across the state, which isn't going to do much. And so I, put in that we were doing 10. And so they definitely want to be coordinating with the ADOs because a lot of the counties are using their ADOs for their grant program to figure out how we don't give to both, that businesses don't get from both, to try to spread it out to more businesses and nonprofits. They were looking at, on their nonprofit side, going from like 10 to potentially 50, because they know nonprofits haven't been able to get, some of them have gotten the PPP loans, but beyond that, there was no grants initially. All the grants were for small businesses. So, so just something to be aware of. Because I think, we're all getting nonprofits talking to us, they're fundraising they couldn't do. I know even like the conservation district, some of those entities that aren't really nonprofits, how do we, what do we do and what do we think for them? I'm going to be talking to Vicki tomorrow because I know, there's just so many people that are hurting, and what do we do? And, I just want to make sure that we decide that we're going to help them go through that process or, if there's some other theory.
So I don't know whether you saw in the paper, I think it was over the weekend, the story about all of the companies here locally that did end up getting PPP money and broke it out into how much by brackets, 5 million, yada, 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 and stuff. So while there was an impressive list of businesses that have received money compared to the total number of businesses in the county, it really is de minimis. I mean, there are a lot of companies that applied for that triple P money that didn't get anything and stuff. So I'm appreciate the fact that we got $10 million going into the community to help small businesses and stuff. And I would not be surprised if we don't end up coming back and providing some additional funding and stuff to that program, just because there's so much need out there and stuff. So, all right. Well,
yeah. Commissioner French, if I can piggyback on what you just said there. I'm seeing some reports right now. It looks like at today's press conference, the governor said he's extending the pause on any county advancing phases to at least July 28th. And there's some other things. This is from Austin Jenkins from TVW. Apparently, Governor Inslee also says if the situation doesn't turn around, it's possible that Washington could go the way of California, was starting to once again shut down elements of the economy. And then in quotes, the status quo is very, very dangerous right now. And there's several tweets from Austin Jenkins that are along those lines. So unfortunately, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say we could remain in phase 2 for a while, and quite frankly, it sounds like the governor could be laying the groundwork to start rolling back certain elements of the economy. So I think you're spot on. We may have to come back with another round of these small business loans if there's or the small business grants, if some of these businesses are now shut down again.
Yeah, as I look at what's happened since Memorial Day weekend, and then Father's Day weekend, and then where we're at now. And we're now going to start the back to school rush, which means more people are going to be out there. Then we got Labor Day, and then you're back to school. And I don't know, with all of those things happening, how we get out of phase two. Unless people start really getting serious about the social distancing. And I just did an interview this morning talking about the fact that, you know, on the weekends, everybody is doing what we do every year, and they're going out and enjoying the Pacific Northwest. They're going out to the parks and the lakes and the barbecues and everything else. And the minute they're outside of town, they forget about the mask, they forget about social distancing, they just have a good time, and then they get sick. And then the numbers start to climb. And unless something changes that paradigm, I'm really worried that I'm not sure that we'll get out of phase two until sometime in, I don't know, September, October. And that's being optimistic.
Yeah, when you go back to that request we made when we sent that letter to Bob Lutz, I mean, it emphasized that if we were to attempt to go to phase three, it had to be done safely. It had to be, you know, it was all contingent on proper use of PPEs, the masks, the social distancing, the hand washing, the sanitation. I mean, it was all contingent on that happening. And unfortunately, with the cases that we're seeing and what we're hearing from Dr. Lutz on what the sort of what the reason was, or the connection where many of these people are contracting the illness, they were not doing those things that we knew it was contingent on to safely move to the next phase. You know, it's so.
Well, and the last guidance from the governor said he's not going to move anybody forward until you meet that 25 cases per 100,000. That means 125,000 cases for us, or 125 cases a week. Hell, we hit that in 2 days at our current pace. And so I mean, this curve has got to really change directions pretty dramatically. And I don't see the initiative in the community to change the level of conduct to be able to hit that threshold. I'm not seeing it. And I'm frustrated because I don't know what we can do to help make that change happen. I mean, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, but I mean, based on today's remarks, though, it looks like even the counties that are not seeing those spikes, the counties that are hitting the numbers, you know, up north, the Pend Oreilles, the Ferries, the Stevens counties who are in phase three, they're still paused regardless. I mean, it looks like, you know, everybody's paused now. You know, even if you do hit that mark, pause till the end of the month. So, sorry, I think did I cut you off there, Mary?
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just going to say that it's just one of those things that I think it's, you know, we are trying to do what we can by getting the PPE out. You know, I think, you know, I think doing the campaign that we're going to do, you know, and I think, you know, people are seeing us when we're out, we're wearing masks, you know, and face coverings and all of that. So it's like, I think we've just got to keep doing that. And I'm going to try to post on my social media here. I just took some pictures in my mask, but, you know, because I mean, we really do have to get people wearing them, you know, because I'm concerned that if we don't, we're not going to get back to school. And that's just going to be so detrimental to kids and their development. You know, I was talking to somebody today that, you know, there's a big chunk of kids up north that didn't even, you know, log into schools. And so, you know, if they go another year, we're going to have, you know, disparities that way. It's just, we can't do it. So we've got to figure it out.
Yeah, and I'm not being critical of anything we've done. I thought everything we've done so far has been the right thing to do. My frustration is I don't know what else. And I feel like there's something else that we need to do. And I'm still wrestling with what is it? What is it that we can do to change that habit? Because it really is about changing that habit.
Yeah, I'm going to be anxious to see the GSI campaign to see how that helps.
Yeah.
I saw there were some digital ads on Facebook today. So if you go to GSI's Facebook page, they had a short little video. It was all kind of animation, all digital, but they did have a little ad they were running today.
And the state of Washington, I saw this morning on the news, had an ad for covering. So,
okay.
So yeah, so I mean, hopefully we're going to start to see that come out. That will help.
Yeah, and Mary, I want to hit one thing you just highlighted about the schools that I think you nailed it, and it's that interaction, it's that social interaction for young students, and some of the very young students, the grade school, the elementary school students. I mean, especially for the special needs students that suffer from disabilities or Asperger's, that need that one-on-one interaction. I mean, if they don't get that at a young age, like there's no way to make that up. I mean, so like that's something that unfortunately will hold them back for the rest of their lives if they're not able to get and have those social interactions with other children early on in their schooling. So I mean, that it's terrible. I mean, it's sad when you think about it.
So just trying to get there.
Well, Todd made an observation this morning, and I don't know whether he did it while we were still in the meeting or he did it afterwards when we were having a conversation with Lutz and Amelia and Todd and I, but he was saying, you go over to Coeur d'Alene on the weekend and every bar is full, every restaurant is full, they're doing business, but they were complaining that well, I don't want to say they're complaining, but business is going, business is active and stuff. And yet then you look at our local restaurants that are trying to get open, but even at half capacity, the numbers don't work. And so he asked the question, why is that? And I said, well, the wage rate in Idaho is probably almost half of what it is in Spokane now.
Oh, yeah.
So they have a lower bar to hit to get to break even, where our restaurants have got to hit to a higher number in terms of turnover to be able to justify keeping the doors open. But I was up at Olive Garden on Saturday, and half the tables were occupied, but there were probably as many to-go orders at the front of the restaurant ready to be picked up as there were people sitting at the tables in the restaurant. So even at that, they're pumping it out the front door just to keep their volume up.
Right, which is helpful for them, but I've got like the little cottage cafe that's over next to me that they haven't opened back up because they're too small.
Yeah.
They provide that social distancing, physical distancing, and so they haven't even opened back up yet.
Yeah, I saw a headline today of another restaurant up here up north, just north of Francis, and they had a positive case, so they're making the decision on their own to close down for a little while, until they kind of assess where they're at. And it's just, I mean, yeah, I mean that.
Well, but then you saw Taco Del Mar is going to close permanently. They're done.
It did.
They said we're not going to open back up.
Mm-hmm.
So another restaurant that's bit the dust.
Yeah, and all of those folks where that's their first job, that's their experience in the workforce, gone. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, more to think about. And so thank you for the conversation. Thank you for the thought. So we'll tee up the conversation with the city and City of the Valley on Monday, as well as some other items. And so anyway, that's all.
So have both of you spoken with the mayor? I'll reach back out to her now and let her know we're out of the meeting. Have both of you spoken with her? You said you had, Al. You did as well today, Mary?
Yes.
Okay.
So I talked to her this weekend. So so we had the discussion at the Bridge Housing meeting, and so we've got another meeting tomorrow. So yeah, so if you talk to her, that's great.
Will do. I'll text her right now and let her know I'm out of the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good.
All right.
All the business coming for the board. So it's 3:55. You got anything else, John? Gary? Nope. All right. We're adjourned. Take care. Bye-bye. So long.